is written by victors, but my guest today prefers to write about the traitors, the grifters, and the loose cannons who nearly brought the British monarchy to its knees. He's been called less a biographer and more as a forensic auditor, a historian who uses Freedom of Information Acts like a weapon to cut through the decades of palace spin. In 2021, in his Traitor King, he changed our understanding of Edward VIII forever, proving that the former king was not just a romantic fool, but an active Nazi sympathizer. Now he turned, actually last year, his sight on a modern era with a bestseller entitled, a book so devastating that it has been described as an obituary for the Duke of York. He's a fellow of the Royal Historical Society, a literary agent, and the man the Windsors likely fear most. Let me welcome to our program Ekskluzivno-Lownie, author of A Traitor King and entitled. Andrew, welcome to program N1.
Very nice to be with you.
Andrew, the whole thing about your namesake, Andrew, is getting bigger and bigger every day. There is new calls for testimonies. There is also new informations popping up. But while I was preparing myself for this conversation, I found information that you believe that the connection between Epstein and Andrew and Sarah Ferguson is longer than it was previously believed. Is that relationship really longer, and could we expect to hear something more from these papers about Andrew and Sarah and the royal family?
Yes, I mean, the relationship, according to Andrew, began in the late 1990s. Well, I show in the book that it was actually began in the early 1990s. And in fact, I've now taken it back to the mid-1980s. I've been talking to people who were involved with Ghislaine and Andrew and Epstein then. Yes, I mean, I think we will get more revelations. I mean, there's still 3 million pages which have to be released, and I think there will be a fight to get those released, though the DOJ are trying to hold them back. And I think, clearly as we go through the existing 3 million pages, I think more revelations will emerge. So this story is only really at the beginning, I think. It's led to clearly the fall of Peter Mandelson, and I think it will lead to charges being leveled against him, the former British ambassador in Washington, but also, I think, against a member of the royal family, Prince Andrew.
Let me ask you this, Andrew. You just mentioned charges. Is there a potentiality for Andrew to be criminally charged in United Kingdom for either dealing information to Epstein or for his acts when it comes to Epstein?
Yes, I mean, I think there are plenty of charges could be leveled. The police are investigating Mandelson for misconduct in public office on the grounds that he shared confidential information with people who were not entitled to it. And that's exactly what Prince Andrew has done. And I don't think if they are investigating Mandelson, they can avoid doing the same with Andrew. But there's also a charge of sex trafficking. He ordered, in effect, these girls from catalogues. We now have several women who were taken to him, I suspect not willingly. So I think there are grounds there. And also there are grounds for trying to influence a public official and make them break the law when he talked to his protection officer to dig up dirt in Virginia Giuffre. So there are a lot of things that could be leveled against Andrew. Whether he will be charged, I don't know. The police have kind of tried to avoid that up till now. And whether he will be convicted and serve a prison term, I think is slightly more unlikely. I think by that stage he will have disappeared to a country without an extradition treaty with Britain, and it'll be very hard to get him to face justice.
Andrew, one more question related to these charges. Do you expect that we will see Peter Mandelson faced with charges in regard for what he did in his part in dealing informations to Jeffrey Epstein? And those informations could be even more state secrets than those which Andrew possesses in his possession at the moment.
Well, we've only got, I think we've got four different emails that Andrew sent. It was confidential trade information, so I think, it is quite serious. This also has a national security element to it. I've actually been passed an intelligence document showing that Andrew was aware that he was operating with Russian intelligence. Epstein was a Russian asset who'd been recruited basically to draw in highly influential public figures through honey traps or blackmail of some sort. And Andrew was one of his victims. And one of the ways of penetrating the British establishment very easily is to go through the royal family, because there's so few checks and oversight of them. And so you can get away there without really having any sort of comeuppance.
When we are speaking about that, how important Ghislaine Maxwell is in all of this, taking in consideration that her father was very influential figure in the media and British society in the years coming up to her departure to United States. Was she also the connection there between royal family, British society, and Epstein?
Yes, I mean, Ghislaine was very much part of the bait. She had affairs with several of these high-profile figures, including Andrew and Epstein. She went to the States after her father's death in 1991. There's some suspicion that not only was Robert Maxwell working for Mossad, but possibly his daughter as well. But she was certainly drawn into Epstein's sort of web as his lover and chief procurer, really, of girls. For his own paedophile tendencies and for these blackmail purposes.
So, if I'm reading correctly what you're saying, Epstein was a Russian spy and Ghislaine is potentially a Mossad spy in this story.
Yes, I mean, he also, I think, was used by Mossad. I mean, I think he was tasked by them to do things. I mean, he gained very close connections with Mossad and Israeli intelligence. She herself, her father was buried on the Mount of Olives. I mean, very close connections to Israel. So, yes, we know that he was a Russian asset and probably worked for Mossad, and we have suspicions that she may have worked for Israeli intelligence as well.
And let me go back to Andrew. The latest picture which we saw is so-called dog pose photos. You describe them as the final blow to his reputation. Is this really the crucial moment where his reputation will finally crumble under the pressure? And what we saw after those emails and photos is that King basically dispatched him to his exile during the mid of the night, during the dead of night.
Yes, I mean, his reputation wasn't very good, even when he had to give up his royal sort of activities. But it's got worse and worse. I mean, through the course of the autumn, with fresh disclosures, my book, Virginia Giuffre's book, various leaked emails about the extent of his relationship with Epstein, which he'd lied about because it went on much longer, probably until July 2019, when Epstein died. But yes, clearly the latest tranche of material with him sort of leering over prostrate women, lying across the laps of various women at Sandringham, all those things, I think, have had quite a shocking effect on public opinion. I think they always say pictures, are worth 1,000 words, but we've clearly also got lots and lots of testimony of him abusing his position as a trade envoy to make money for himself. We've got quite a lot of evidence of his very close relationship and rather sleazy relationship with Epstein, let's play again, etc. So yeah, his reputation's in the dirt, and so is his ex-wife, who's again shown to have been much more closely associated with Epstein than people realized. And taken a lot of money off him, and again, sort of leveraged her royal status in order to make money for herself.
There is also a second accuser against him, and if I remember correctly, you said that you, in one podcast, that you know the identity of this second accuser against him.
Yes, I do. I mean, there are others who I think will also come forward, and I've talked to several of these women. So I have no doubt that there's enough evidence to charge him for sex trafficking, should the police want to do so. And that's the big question: are they going to bite the bullet and to investigate and charge a member of the royal family? And this is the big question.
One of the mysteries or biggest lies regarding all of this is that Newsnight interview where he claimed that the picture with Virginia Giuffre was fake, fabricated, photoshopped, etc., etc., etc. And then we learned from Ghislaine, actually, in one of her documents released recently, that the picture is really, really, really true, and that the Virginia Giuffre asked for that picture to be taken. How do you see that situation now when the documents and evidence has came against him and confirmed that that picture is true picture, is not a fake picture against him?
Well, those of us who studied the case have always felt that the picture was absolutely genuine. I mean, there was a campaign to try and discredit her and the picture, paid for by the Maxwell family and others. And those people have now gone very quiet. I mean, Andrew lied repeatedly in that Newsnight interview. We're now seeing the extent of the lying from the new material that's come out. It's also, this new material confirmed all the things I found in my book and added a bit more to the puzzle. But you know, I don't think anyone who has studied this case doubted that picture. It was tested by forensic experts. It was backed up by lots of testimony from people who'd seen it at the time. So it just undermines or just confirms what I found, is that you can't trust a single thing that former Prince Andrew says.
You compared him to Guy Burgess as a useful idiot. How big useful idiot he was in this case, and how much damage he did done to the royal family, to the firm. Basically, you said somewhere that there was a firm inside the firm. And as far as I understand, he and Sarah didn't only damage the firm and the family, but also their children, because we have evidence now that Sarah took two of them, the princesses, to Epstein's house.
Yes, I mean, she was always taking her children to, even when they were quite young, to meet sex offenders. And it's ironic because she made a big thing of working for charities dealing with women who'd been trafficked, and had always spoken out against paedophiles very publicly. So there's a certain hypocrisy here, a certain cynicism. But it's her reputation, as I say, has fallen considerably as a result of some of these disclosures. Because again, her contact with Epstein went on much later than she claimed, after she'd publicly disowned him. And she clearly, lots and lots of examples of her taking money off him for basically, one has to wonder why. And I think the reason is that she was away into Andrew. Andrew was away into the rest of the royal family. But this is a story about financial corruption and sexual deviance at the heart of the British royal family by a senior royal. And that's why it's so serious for them. It's now emerging that they knew far more about the story than they've let on. And they have not dealt with this problem. And they're now having to face that now. And they're being accused of a cover-up.
What about late Queen? You're very harsh critic of her, and you call her enabler of Andrew. Did she made a mistake trying to protect him? And how do you see Charles's role in all of this? Or this is all doing by, as you called him, William the Ruthless, who basically is trying to clean a firm and make a situation better for the future of royal family?
Well, I think the Queen and King Charles have to take some responsibility. I mean, they were made aware of the problem. They had briefings, and they chose to do nothing because the story wasn't public. And it's only now it's become public that they have to react. The Queen sort of had her favorite son, Andrew, and she did protect him. I think a lot of people believed he might be innocent, given that she was giving him her support. And it does sully her reputation because we always felt she put the monarchy ahead of the family, and that clearly isn't the case. Charles has had several years to deal with it. He in effect was a co-ruler with the Queen during the last years of her reign, and I don't think he can shirk his responsibility. He's offered to cooperate with the police, but at the same time, I know he's sent out orders for a lot of the protection officers not to talk. So I do have my suspicions that this is all window dressing to try and assuage public opinion rather than a genuine wish to address the problem.
Andrew was a spare in one moment, and we have another spare who lives in California. Can William, when he becomes the king, move a family in peaceful waters with the two spares who might be his problem, or this basically surgical cutting of both of them will make space for him to breathe a little bit easier than, for example, his father at the moment?
Yes, I mean, I think he's hoping that this problem can be dealt with in his father's reign and he can start with a clean slate. Clearly, if Andrew is either convicted and goes to prison or escapes to the Middle East, he will be sort of out of circulation. Harry is more difficult, but I think people are beginning to tire of Harry and his activities. I think if Harry was to also lose his title, that would, in a sense, diminish the sort of damage he could do. He would just be an ordinary citizen. But there's clearly a lot of things here which are distracting from the good work that the royal family do, and they clearly want to deal with this as soon as they can. But it's always the same story: too little, too late, never getting ahead of the story, and that's my concern at the moment. They're not really being ruthless enough with Andrew, or I would say also with Harry.
Should they do that same with his daughters, to remove titles from them?
Yes, I mean, I think anyone who isn't in the direct line of succession should have their title removed. I mean, I don't see why, as non-working royals, the two daughters have subsidized accommodation in royal palaces, for example. So, I mean, there are a lot of things he could do just to clean up the act. I think there needs to be more transparency about their finances. I think we need to get rid of a sort of lobby system we have with favored journalists, the Royal Rota. So there's a lot of things that could be done. I think William wants to do, but he has to clearly wait for his own reign possibly to do it.
Andrew, what about political world in United Kingdom at the moment? We have seen that the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is under enormous pressure because of Lord Mandelson, and everybody knew how Mandelson is a dangerous mine on a battlefield in a political way. But what the politics should do to deal with both of these tentacles, Andrew tentacle and Mandelson tentacle at the moment?
Well, we certainly want more integrity in public life. I think there have to be better checks on people with public appointments, more supervision, more transparency. I mean, I think as long as there's accountability and oversight, then these problems are unlikely to take place. And if the royal family are serious about this matter, then they should welcome the sort of accountability that people are calling for. With privilege comes responsibility, and I think they need to accept that.
I just spoke with a political analyst and journalist, my colleague from Aftenposten in Norway. They're having a really serious discussion about their royal family, especially the crown princess, and they're asking now, should she even become a queen of Norway in the future? Two royal families and two societies, Norway and United Kingdom, are taking very harsh actions to deal with this. But we are not seeing that in the United States, where the core of this scandal is. Do you have any sense why we are not seeing this kind of reaction when it comes to states?
Well, I think the problem in the States is the people who should be initiating legal action, the Department of Justice, are very much in a thrall to Trump. And Trump is trying to control these files. There's suspicions that he is in them himself. And so they don't really want to go there. They're going to throw a few candidates out, particularly British candidates like Mandelson and Prince Andrew, but they don't really want some of the names coming out. But we have Bill Clinton giving testimony to the Senate. Various names have been mentioned in the releases, but one can only hope that that law enforcement is now beginning to build a case against these people and that they will face justice, because it's ironic the only person in prison so far is a woman.
When I asked the colleague from Norway, does he expect to see more names to come out? Because we saw, for example, former Prime Minister Jagland falling out of grace very instantly. He told me no. But is there more names from the United Kingdom which might come out in the next days or months once we sift through these 3 million pages? Because I know that in one podcast you mentioned that there is a possibility that one very high senior political official, former official from United Kingdom, could be mentioned in these files.
Yes, I mean, we have a former prime minister that's been mentioned. We also have had a leading businessman like Richard Branson mentioned. So I think we will see some more names as people begin to look at the files more carefully, and maybe as people come forward in the light of that.
Andrew Lownie, thank you so very much for your time and for these very useful informations about this very important case.
A pleasure to talk to you.